Findings of archaeologists that are difficult to explain. The sword, which is more than 3,000 years old, in perfect condition. An image of an iPhone in an ancient painting, and other archaeological finds which you will definitely be interested in. Hi friend, you're on the KirTop channel. 3,000-year-old mummy. An amazing archaeological find was discovered right on the football field in Peru. And it's not a joke. Imagine a stone tomb found on top of a hill near a soccer team's training ground in Lima, Peru. And inside it is a 3,000-year-old mummy. And this is not just a random burial. Just think, these people who lived 3,000 years ago sacrificed one of their own right here in the temple. Specialists from the University of San Marcos and local researchers came across the remains of hair and a skull in a cotton knot during excavations. Miguel Aguilar, archaeologist and director of the RIMAC Historical and Cultural Center, said the mummy belongs to a pre-Hispanic culture that flourished in the Lima valleys between 1500 and 1000 BC. But there seems to be something even more surprising. Together with the mummy, coca leaves and shells were found, and this indicates that all this was part of a ritual sacrifice. Just think, this man was sacrificed during the construction of this temple. The thing is that sacrifices have a long history in Peru, dating back to before the arrival of the Spaniards in the 16th century. Many Indian people such as the Chavang, Mexica, and Incas believed that sacrificing people, animals, and objects helped them communicate with the gods. Summing up, we can say that the mummy from Peru is a window into the past, which helps us better understand the history and culture of our ancestors. And I assure you, we will return to this exciting discovery in future videos. In the meantime, you can write in the comments about which famous find of archaeologists you would like to hear in detail in the next video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so before, and now we'll continue. Ancient sword in perfect condition. Archaeologists have found a real bronze sword in the waters of the Danube River, a sword that is already about 3,000 years old. At first, scientists thought it was a fake, but after checking the sword, they were amazed. This is a real ancient sword, and best of all, it's in perfect condition. Let's imagine, 3,000 years ago, different tribes lived in Germany. People lived in wooden houses near the rivers, were engaged in agriculture, hunting, and waging wars was common. And in one of these wars, this sword was lost. The sword was found near the town of Nördlingen, in a grave where 3 people lay. It seems that it was a family, a man, a woman, and a little boy. They were buried with other bronze objects, but the sword turned out to be the most surprising among them. Scholars estimate that this sword was made at the end of the 14th century BC, and it was not a simple sword, but a skillfully crafted sword with an octagonal hilt and a wide blade. Do you know what swords were made of in the Bronze Age? That's right, bronze. And here's why it was cool. Firstly, bronze does not rust. Secondly, it is easy to mold. And thirdly, bronze swords were very durable. At least until blacksmiths started using iron. Therefore, iron eventually replaced bronze. Iron was stronger, iron ore was easier to find, and an iron sword could be made even sharper. And so, thanks to iron, swords became even stronger, sharper, and cheaper. But we were lucky that the sword was made of bronze, otherwise we would not have seen it today. iPhone spotted in painting. What the researchers found next raises a lot of questions. I'm going to talk about a mysterious painting from the 19th century, which, according to rumors, depicts iPhone. It would seem nothing surprising, only the picture was painted in the 19th century and has an iPhone on it. The painting is called The Betrothal of Burns and Highland Mary. It depicts the famous Scottish poet Robert Burns and his beloved Mary Campbell. And here's what's interesting. In the hands of both characters, you can see a strange dark rectangle with rounded corners. This is what caused a wave of discussions on the internet. Indeed, in shape and size, this item is very similar to one of the first iPhones. But here's the catch, guys. The picture was painted in 1882, that is, 125 years before the first iPhone appeared. Now art lovers around the world are unraveling this mystery. Many speculate that it could be time travel. Others argue that it may simply be a prayer book, which in those days people often carried with them. In any case, we know one thing. people's love for riddles and secrets does not subside. And this is not the first picture where a smartphone was noticed. Consider Umberto Romano's 1937 painting Miss Pinchin and the Settling of Springfield. There was also an item that looked like a mobile phone. But what it really is, a mirror, a knife, a prayer book, or really a smartphone, is still not known for sure. In any case, this leaves room for your assumptions and fantasies. Write in the comments what you think. Who scrolled this? In Spain, there was a discovery because of which the entire European Archaeological Society is going crazy from discussion. The thing is that in the small town of Hornachuelos, located in Córdoba, one of the residents presented the researchers with an ordinary, at first glance, fragment of an oil amphora. Amphoras and defies are a dime a dozen, but this one turned out to be special. This fragment, made about 1,800 years ago and measuring only 6 by 8 centimeters, initially did not arouse much interest. Some letters are scratched on it, but this is also a fairly common thing. In ancient times, everything was written on amphoras. However, the researchers decided to take a closer look at the inscription. Usually, information about the manufacturer, the quantity of goods, taxes, and so on was left on the amphoras. But nothing of the kind was found on this fragment. The inscription that was preserved on it read: Esve abonium glandum aristapo cuvi tisa cuviit. Archaeologists made an assumption and wow, it turned out to be a fragment of the famous poem Georgics by Virgil, written in 29 BC and dedicated to agriculture and rural life. But the most interesting thing is that the poem is scrolled on the very bottom edge of the amphora, where it was not at all expected to be seen. The author of this message from the past could be a skilled worker or even a child, since at that time, child labor was often used in factories. But one thing is clear for sure, the author was much more educated than most workers. Stonehenge in the Netherlands. Archaeologists from Holland have discovered a treasure called the Stonehenge of the Netherlands. And this is not just some ordinary building, it is 4,000 years old. In the center of the Netherlands, in the city of Tiel, scientists have discovered a sanctuary among which mountain ditches are distinguished. Important artifacts have been found here: animal skeletons, human skulls, and even a bronze spearhead. The oldest of them date back to 2,500 BC. In just one mound, archaeologists found about 60 remains of men, women, and children, and 20 more in mounds in a nearby cemetery. Researchers think the sanctuary was planned so that sunlight would pass right through it during the longest and shortest days of the year. Stonehenge functioned exactly the same way. This solar calendar helped ancient people set important events such as religious holidays and harvest days. But the main sensation is in the oldest part of the mound. There they found the remains of a woman buried with a green coral glass bead. This is the oldest bead ever found in the Netherlands. The analysis showed that it came all the way from Mesopotamia, modern Iraq. This means that people here, more than 4,000 years ago, could contact people at a distance of up to 5,000 kilometers. The scientists spent 6 years excavating and analyzing the finds. In total, more than 1 million artifacts from different eras have been discovered, from the Stone Age to the Middle Ages. Some of them will soon be on display at the Tiel Museums and at the Dutch National Museum of Antiquities. Neanderthal rock paintings. In the following story, scientists from France have found something unique. Perhaps these are the oldest cave paintings created by our distant ancestors, the Neanderthals. And these drawings are 75,000 years old. Can you imagine? And now, where it all started. Researchers from the University of Tours found strange marks in the cave of La Roche-Cotard. These are not just scratches, these are unique patterns created by lines, dashes, and dots. To figure out who might have made them, the scientists used 3D modeling and compared them to similar footprints left by humans. So, they are sure that these are drawings from Neanderthals. The most interesting thing is that the entrance to this cave was closed about 57,000 years ago, excluding the possibility that these drawings were made by Homo sapiens. And the Neanderthal tools found there gave the last piece to the puzzle. What the creators wanted to say by this, we do not yet know. There are no images of animals or objects in the drawings, but this is additional evidence that Neanderthals were no less advanced than our ancestors. This cave is the oldest rock art cave in France, if not all of Europe. The find also adds to the list of clues that Neanderthals also made art, including 39,000-year-old drawings found in Gibraltar and 51,000-year-old deer bone engravings. Flooded old church. This is a special story that will take you back to the 16th century, straight to Mexico. At the side of the reservoir, now you can see the whole Catholic church. Incredible, isn't it? The water level in the Nezahualcóyotl reservoir has plummeted due to drought, and now, after 60 years of being underwater, the ancient temple of Santiago, also known as the Temple of Quechua, has resurfaced. And the most interesting thing is that now you can reach it by car. This temple was dependent on the monastery of Tacpatan, founded in 1564. But around the temple it became empty when people left these places because of the terrible plague in 1773-1776. However, travelers and believers continued to visit it until the 19th century because it was located on the Royal Highway, built by the Spanish conquistadors. Centuries later, in 1966, when creating a reservoir, the temple was flooded. But even after that, unique arches, ornaments, and even handmade bricks remained intact in it. A few months ago, the temple began to gradually emerge and people were able to visit it by boat. But now, the water level has become even lower and the temple has completely appeared on land. And now tourists can get to it by car or even walk, which they already do because such an opportunity does not come up very often. Fossils of giant sea creatures. And now let's take a trip to the North Island of New Zealand, where unique prehistoric remains have recently been discovered. And all this due to the elements that we know as the Cyclone Gabriel. It raged a lot here, washing away a thick layer of mud and sand from stones and boulders, and discovered these ancient finds. Among these treasures were two fossilized vertebrae that, according to paleontologists, could belong to Elasmosaurus. This is a giant marine reptile with a long neck, which at one time could reach a length of 14 meters. A vertebrae was also found that may have belonged to a Mosasaurus, another huge marine reptile that was considered the supreme predator in the oceans of the dinosaur era. Cyclone Gabriel left behind a sad story. It was the deadliest cyclone since 1968, killing 11 people. But with all its destructive power, it also revealed to us the secrets of the past, taken from the depth of mountain streams and rivers. In the zone of its action lies the forest of Moongatanaiva, which is considered a storehouse of the Cretaceous period. Here, in 1975, the first dinosaur was discovered. If there is a place that can be called the epicenter of New Zealand paleontology, it is undoubtedly Moongatanaiva and especially the Manahuana stream. The oldest painting. In Iceland, archaeologists have discovered a stone carved with a Viking ship. And the most amazing thing about this is that it may be the oldest image in the history of Iceland. It is worth saying that although carved ships are found in Scandinavian culture, such discovery in Iceland is the first of its kind. According to archaeologist Bjarni Einarsson, this could be the first illustration in the history of the country. Work on the store excavation site began in 2015. Archaeologists return here every summer to continue their work. At first, the researchers drew attention to the longhouse of the settlement era, but this only opened the doors for them to the rich history of this place. What about the fact that 92 beads and 29 silver objects were found in this longhouse, including coins from Rome and the Middle East? An even older longhouse was found here, which archaeologists estimate was built around 800 AD. This is 75 years before Iceland became permanently populated. No remains of domestic animals were found inside it, which suggests its special purpose. Bjarni Einarsson suggests that this could have been a seasonal hunting base from where the Vikings went in search of valuable resources, including walrus bone. The messenger could have been easily executed. And now, let's go back to the distant past to find out how the messengers behaved in different countries. And the messengers, you know, they were a kind of postman of antiquity. Imagine no internet, no phones, how to quickly deliver an important message. This is where the messengers come into play. Let's start with Persia and Mesopotamia. There, for the messengers, to put it mildly, it wasn't sweet. If they brought unwanted news, the messenger could simply be beheaded because he spoiled the mood of the master. Pretty rough, isn't it? But in ancient Greece, things were different. There, the messenger was a real hero. Imagine, even the winners of the Olympic Games could become messengers. They probably liked the wind in their hair and the admiring glances of those around them. In Greece, the messengers were most often foot soldiers. Horses were used, but rarely. Why? Because a strong warrior in light armor could outrun any horse over a long distance. Yes, in a short distance the horse was faster, but in a long distance the warrior always won. Therefore, the most most enduring and athletic guys became messengers. Their task was simple. They had to run about 10 kilometers per hour and up to 90 kilometers per day. But this is already the maximum. Usually the messengers covered from 20 to 30 kilometers per day. But the most famous messenger in history ran 40 kilometers from Marathon to Athens, announced victory, and died of exhaustion. It was this distance of 40 kilometers that later became the official standard for marathon races. These were the messengers in antiquity, guys. In this age of the internet and smartphones, it's hard to imagine that people could run 90 kilometers a day to deliver important news. But that's the way it was. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video if you enjoyed it. See you in the next videos. Thanks for your views. Bye everyone!